You don't exist. Your passport is fake. Your apartment is rented under a dead man's name. The agency that trained you will deny you the moment anything goes wrong. And they will do it without hesitation, without guilt, and without a single piece of paper that proves they ever knew you. You're sitting in a coffee shop in Amman, Jordan. It's 9:40 in the morning. You're reading a newspaper. Your contact is 3 tables away. You haven't made eye contact once. You don't need to. The way he positioned his cup tells you everything. Your real name hasn't been spoken aloud in 14 months. The name on your credit card belongs to a construction consultant from Zurich who has never set foot in the Middle East. The phone in your pocket has 1 contact saved. It's labeled Dad. You've never called it. It's not for calling. How does a person become this? And what does it cost to stay this way? Level 1. The candidate. You think you're interviewing for a government analyst position. The interview is in a hotel conference room in Washington, D.C., not a federal building, not an office with a seal on the wall, a hotel. The man asking questions never gives you his last name. He doesn't take notes. He asks about your childhood twice, from different angles, 6 minutes apart. He watches how you order coffee. He watches whether you look at the door when someone enters. 3 weeks later, you receive a letter. No letterhead, no agency name, no return address. Just an address in Northern Virginia and a time, 6 a.m. on a Thursday. Nothing else. You go. You will learn later that the CIA's career trainee program and the assessment pipeline leading to clandestine service involve multi-stage psychological screening where candidates are evaluated before they fully understand what they're being evaluated for. The vetting is deliberately ambiguous. The ambiguity is the test. What they're measuring isn't your knowledge. It's your response to uncertainty. It's whether you show up to an address with no explanation and walk in anyway. You walked in. Everyone who made it to the next level showed up. No one who didn't was ever contacted again. Level 2. The trainee. You spend 6 weeks memorizing a life you never lived. University transcripts from a school you visited once. On a campus tour that was itself part of your cover construction. A hometown in Ohio with a specific diner. A specific street. A specific neighbor whose dog died when you were 11. An ex-girlfriend named Claire, who is, in reality, a fellow trainee 3 cohorts ahead of you. You take the same commute every morning, not because you live in that neighborhood, but because your cover does. At Camp Peary, which the agency calls the farm, which officially does not appear on any Defense Department facility map, you learn surveillance detection, dead drop methodology, asset validation exercises, and the construction of what your instructors call a legend. A legend is not a story. A legend is a replacement life, built with the precision of a legal case and the texture of a lived memory. It includes fabricated employment records, a curated online presence, references who are themselves vetted assets who will confirm warmly and specifically a professional history that never happened. Former officers who've written memoirs describe the legend-building process as near total identity replacement. You understand that now. You don't think of it as lying. You think of it as fluency in a second language, except the language is a person, and you are the one speaking it. One morning, your instructor tells you that the man you've been having coffee with for 3 weeks in the hotel lobby, casually, as part of your cover's morning routine, has been assessing whether your legend holds under sustained informal social pressure. Not confrontational, not aggressive, just consistent, human, unremarkable conversation. It held. You'd been lying without noticing you were lying. The scariest part isn't learning to lie. It's how natural it already felt. Level 3. The Watcher. Your first real posting is Beirut. Your job isn't to meet anyone. Your job is to walk. For 3 weeks, you conduct surveillance detection routes, SDRs, across the city. Hours of deliberate, seemingly purposeless urban movement designed to identify whether anyone is following you before you ever approach an asset. You enter a souk from the north, exit from the east, double back through a residential block, stop at a bread vendor, wait, move. The route looks like a distracted tourist. It's a precision instrument. Former CIA officers who've discussed tradecraft have described SDRs as a way of forcing a surveillance team to reveal itself, because following a target through enough unpredictable terrain requires multiple team members, handoffs, and position changes. Every handoff is a moment of exposure. You're not searching for followers. You're creating conditions that make invisibility impossible. You memorize faces the way a musician memorizes keys. Not consciously, structurally. You eat at the same calf twice. The second time, a man sits one table closer than the first. Different shirt, same posture, same slight forward lean when he reads. You don't react. You finish your coffee. You leave a tip. You never go back. You report the contact to your handler. She says, "Good." Don't change your pattern. You don't ask why. Asking why is for people who are uncertain about their place in the architecture. You are not uncertain. You're not being followed. You're being tested. The difference matters more than you know. Level 4. The handler. Your first asset is a finance official at a ministry in a country you're not cleared to name and not supposed to be operating in. You've had 22 meetings with him over 8 months. Not operational meetings. Coffee, lunch, a football match watched in a hotel bar. His name is not his name in your files. He's a cryptonym, a letter number combination that will outlast both of you. But you know his real name. You know his wife's. You know his son attends a private school on the east side of the city and struggles with mathematics. You know this because his file told you. And his file told you because someone else built the relationship before you arrived and handed it off the way a surgeon hands off a patient, precisely, without sentiment. The CIA uses a framework called MICE to categorize why assets cooperate: money, ideology, coercion, ego. Your asset is ego and money in roughly equal measure. He's brilliant and underpaid and surrounded by men he considers his inferiors who are promoted above him for reasons that have nothing to do with merit. You spent 8 months reflecting that grievance back to him like a mirror, carefully, never directly, always through implication and quiet agreement. Tonight, you ask him the question. He goes quiet for 11 seconds. You count them. Then he says yes. You feel nothing. That's exactly what you were trained to feel. He asks what happens to him if he's caught. You give the answer your training gave you. It is accurate as far as it goes. It doesn't go very far. You shake his hand. You both know only one of you is safe walking out of this room. Level 5. The ghost. Your embassy access is gone. Your diplomatic passport is in a drawer at Langley that you will never open again. Your official cover, the light tissue of bureaucratic legitimacy that meant if things went wrong, a phone call could produce a State Department official, has been removed. You are now non-official cover. A knock, which means if you're arrested, the U.S. government cannot intervene. Cannot acknowledge. Will not. Valerie Plame Wilson's exposure in 2003 brought knock status into public awareness for the first time, and what the coverage made clear was that knock officers don't just lose a job title when they're burned. They lose the entire scaffolding of a life. Commercial cover. No embassy. No resources. No rescue. You're a logistics consultant for a firm based in Singapore. The firm is real. It has clients. It pays taxes. Your LinkedIn profile has 340 connections, professionals across 6 industries, none of whom know you, one of whom is your control officer. You haven't spoken to him in 6 weeks. Operational security. You tell yourself you prefer the silence. A colleague at your cover firm invites you to his wedding in Edinburgh. He's genuine. He likes you. You've been colleagues for a year and a half, and you've had lunch with him 40 times, and you have, without trying, become someone he trusts. You can't go. Your cover identity would intersect with your operational history in 3 separate ways that would take months to isolate and sanitize. You send a gift. Crystal candle holders. You write a card. You mean every word of it, which is the strangest part. The loneliest people on Earth aren't the ones with no one around them. They're the ones surrounded by people who don't know their name. Level 6. The extractor. At 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, you receive one word on a messaging app that deletes every message after 40 seconds. The word is a color. You've been waiting 4 months for it. You have 90 minutes. The 1979 operation that became known as the Canadian Caper, the exfiltration of 6 American diplomats from Tehran using fabricated Canadian passports and a fictional film production as cover, is one of the most documented real extractions in intelligence history. What made it work wasn't the disguises. It was the pre-positioning. Months of quiet preparation. Documents, routes, exit timelines, contingencies, all placed before they were needed, like furniture in a room you won't enter until the lights go out. Your operation has been pre-positioned the same way. You know exactly where to go. You reach a parking garage on the city's eastern edge at 3:40 a.m. The car is there. Keys under the right rear wheel well. In the trunk, 2 passports issued by 2 different governments, 40,000 in mixed currency in a canvas bag, and a phone with a single number saved. The asset is already in the back seat. He doesn't speak. Neither do you. There is nothing useful to say, and both of you understand this without discussion. At the border, the checkpoint guard looks at your passport, then at your face, then at your passport again. 4 seconds. 4 seconds is a medical procedure. 4 seconds is a verdict being read. Then he hands it back. He waves you through. You don't exhale until you're 60 kilometers past the border. Then you exhale once. Then you keep driving. Level 7. The burned asset. The cable arrives on a Wednesday morning. 3 paragraphs. An asset you ran for 3 years, a man whose children you know by name, whose birthday you've remembered annually under 4 different covers, has been arrested. The cable doesn't tell you what you should do. It tells you what you shouldn't. Make contact. Alter your cover. Deviate from current operational posture. The instruction is lawful. It is also precise in the way that scalpels are precise. It cuts only what it means to cut and does not account for what bleeds anyway. The Church Committee investigations of 1975 revealed that U.S. intelligence had, in documented instances, failed to adequately protect or warn assets who were later arrested. The record shows cases where operational considerations, protecting larger intelligence streams, preserving cover infrastructure, took precedence over the welfare of individual human sources. The men who made those decisions weren't monsters. They were professionals operating inside institutional logic that was internally coherent. That is a thing you now understand from the inside. You sit with the cable for 6 hours. You follow the instruction. You do not make contact. 2 months later, you learn he was released. You never find out why, whether it was a trade, an error, a deliberate decision by the other side. You don't ask. You know better than to ask. Asking would mean the answer mattered in a way you can't afford for it to matter. You've spent years learning to feel nothing. This is the moment you realize you never fully succeeded. Level 8. The deniable. They give you a target package with no signatures, no agency letterhead, no authorization chain, no names above yours in any document, because there are no documents. The concept of plausible deniability was formalized in a 1948 National Security Council directive and has been a cornerstone of covert action ever since. The logic is simple and total. If the record doesn't exist, the action didn't happen. If the action didn't happen, neither did you. What sits in front of you is a situation to resolve, not a recruitment, not an extraction, a resolution. The parameters are clear. The authorization is implicit, conveyed through the existence of the package itself, through the chain of custody you can infer but not prove, through 11 years of institutional trust that was built precisely so that, when this moment came, no one would need to sign anything. If this fails, there is no operation, there is no file, there is no you. You complete it. It works. Every operational metric confirms it. The outcome is what the outcome was supposed to be, achieved within parameters, without exposure. You will never discuss it. You will never write about it. The people who ordered it cannot acknowledge they ordered it, because ordering requires a paper trail, and a paper trail requires a you that officially exists, and you have not officially existed for 6 years. You sit in a hotel room in a city you won't name. The air conditioning is loud. You watch the ceiling for a long time. The most dangerous moment in this career isn't when everything goes wrong. It's when everything goes right, and no one can ever say so. They retire you cleanly. It takes 3 weeks and 2 meetings in windowless rooms. New name. New history. A lump sum wired to an account in a country with strong banking privacy. A 1-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city where the architecture is unremarkable and the streets are wide and no one has any reason to look for anyone. Your neighbor is a woman in her 50s who grows tomatoes on her balcony. She asks, the first week, what you do for work. You say consulting. She nods. She asks no follow-up question. She is the first person in 11 years to ask without already knowing the answer, without the question being itself a form of surveillance, without anything behind it except ordinary human curiosity. You make coffee. You watch the street from the kitchen window. A man passes on the sidewalk below. You note his pace, his posture, the direction his eyes track. 12 minutes later, he passes again on the opposite side. You've filed the observation before you've decided to file it. That's not training anymore. That's architecture. They built it into you one level at a time, and there is no version of the renovation that gives you back the original structure. A week later, a letter arrives. No return address, just an address and a time. You already know you'll go. You knew before you opened it. Because this is not a career with an exit, it's a career with a pause. The machine is always running. The seat across from the man with no last name is never empty for long. Somewhere tonight, a 26-year-old is sitting across from a man who orders his coffee before the meeting starts. The room has no recording devices. There's no letterhead on the table. The man asks questions that seem like small talk and aren't. He watches the door. He watches the 26-year-old watch the door. In 3 weeks, a letter will arrive. No return address, just an address and a time. The 26-year-old will go. Because people who make it to the next level always go. That's how they're found. He doesn't know what the levels cost. He doesn't know what gets built into a person, quietly, 1 year at a time, until the original person is no longer distinguishable from the instrument they became. He doesn't know what it feels like to be in a room full of people who trust you and realize that trust is a one-way door you cannot reopen from the inside. He thinks he's interviewing for a position. He doesn't know the interview ended before he sat down. But he will.